All right. So we're gonna do this. This is the second time on the Mando Method Podcast we're doing video. So this is either gonna be awesome or really shitty and fucked up. I guess I should start it as normal, Chuck. Right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to another exciting episode of the Mando Method Podcast. I am your co-host Armand Rosamilia,
and I'm the other co-host Chuck Buda. And I wish I were wearing the shirt you're wearing.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm wearing a Bed Bath & Beyond shirt.
It's not Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, it's Battery. It's Bed Battery. I knew it was something like that. What are you wearing?
Now that I'm wearing.
See each other. It's weird.
Oh, you probably can't see. It's the Brian Keane telethon shirt. I think the second one.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, the second one.
So we could probably let's just keep talking about stuff we can see. But the people who are going to listen to the regular podcast have no idea what we're talking about, you know? Like that would be, hey, could you see this book behind me, Chuck? Yeah, they would just talk about that for an hour. But we're not going to do that. First we're going to do is we're going to, I guess you're going to talk. I'll hold the cup up and you can talk, Chuck.
Yes. Make sure that you check out Reaper's Brew Coffee. Go to reapersbrew.com. Of course, it's horror-themed coffee. It's a veteran-owned company. They have two great flavors. They have the regular flavor, which is the murder mud, or the kind that I'm drinking, the electric chair, which is high octane, and it really gets the words onto the page for you. Of course, they have all the great collector's mugs that Armand was just holding up, as well as the past serial killers and the future serial killers, who can say might feature the four of us someday on those mugs, depending on who pisses us off. So make sure that you go to reapersbrew.com and enter the code MANDO, that's MANDO, at checkout, and you'll get 10% off of your first order and get lots of free stuff, cool stuff. I got like a COVID mask, which is awesome. Check them out, reapersbrew.com. Love it. Electric chair, baby.
All right, so I don't have to ask you what we're talking about because I already know what the hell we're talking about this week. So we got two special guests, and this is exciting because it's kind of one of those things for me as a guy who's been in the horror community for like 30 years, that all of a sudden a couple of people just kind of pop in at like around the same time, and they're doing really cool things that are slightly different from what we're used to seeing out there, and it gets everybody excited. So first off, we'll go this way. Drew, welcome to the show, and let everybody know who the hell you are.
Thanks, guys. I'm Drew Stepik. I'm an independent horror author. I'm best known for my Knuckle Supper series, which is a series about these gangs of vampires that use humans as paraphernalia because they need blood to get high because they're heroin addicts. That's what I'm most known for, but I recently, a month and a half ago, started Godless.com, which is a promotional and distribution platform for independent horror authors and people who are being censored from other platforms like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, etc.
Very cool. And our other guest?
Hey, I'm Damon Della Greca. I created the Slasher mobile app. Basically, it's a social network for the horror genre. We're very much like Godless. We're against censorship of the genre. Movies, books, things like that. We want to make sure that we can keep enjoying it and just have a good time doing it.
So, you guys are obviously both big parts of the community already, but since starting your respective sites, have you guys kind of been shocked by anything? Have you guys been surprised, either in a good way or a bad way, by the way the community has been checking out your sites?
Damon, if you want to go first, you can take that.
Sure, thank you. It's been fantastic, really. I mean, the community in general is pretty consistent with the people I've met in person at all the conventions and everything. Everybody's just been super nice, amazingly supportive. When people find out about what I'm doing, people have just been so excited. So it's definitely on par with my past experiences, which is fantastic. People are adopting the app and taking to it and just having a great time. So it's been really, really nice, and I'm really thankful to have experienced that kind of support. Um, you know, every once in a while we'll get some really wild things happen, like on Joe Bob's last drive-in. He mentioned the app a couple of times that I was not expecting. So that's been a really cool experience. He and Darcy, Diana, have been just super supportive. So to find people who are in the genre and have been so entrenched in it for so long, like Joe Bob has. I mean, I grew up with him.
Yeah.
So it's just been a really, really cool thing to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would also totally agree with Damon. It's like one of those things that kind of takes you by surprise. Once I got through, like, really kind of like showing people what this was, because before launch it was really complicated to explain what I was doing, because people would be like, well, dude, I got my fucking books on Amazon. Why would I need some other janky platform that's like some freaking satanic freaking labeled nonsense? And I'm like, just wait, because there's a lot more to it than that. This is a lot more than just like, I'm going to put your books on my platform and I'm going to take a cut, because I'm trying to promote and essentially turn these horror authors who are having a hard time, not only because of censorship, just because they can't really find their footing in their audience. And my mission is to kind of create social media relevance and kind of a influencership from these, out of these authors, right? I mean, I'm not talking about turning like a horror author into an Instagram star. It's something different, because horror authors actually have something to offer the world, right? So I think it's important that they get their message out, and the biggest audience they find is only going to help them, and they're going to help them succeed. And we're just like, one day at a time, trying to like really evolve the indie horror industry, which I think is important, because to be honest with you, I think it's been kind of stuck in a rut for a pretty long time, man. And I think that with all these new voices coming out, that these people who are successful and godless, like the Simon McCartys and the Rain Havocs and these people, a lot of people don't know who these people are, in the mainstream. But I mean, they're blowing up. Like their audiences were already really loyal, but now they're just expanding and growing and growing. I put up Rain Havoc's book, Mukbang Princess, like 2 days before I launched the site. She sent it to me late. I'm kind of like, fuck, man, I'm sick as fuck. I've got a sciatica in my leg. I'm like, the last thing I wanted to do was be fucking around, because I was trying to get all these titles to populate the site. And she sent me that, and I put it up, and it just fucking exploded, man. I'm like, wow, man, I'm glad I did that for that 50-cent book, right? It's just, it's the to back to your original question, though, the acceptance has been overwhelming. And like you said about like, someone like Joe Bob Briggs or something like that, that would be like, Chuck and Armand sending me an email on the same day, and I'm like, yes, dude. We're not to discount like the younger authors and stuff, but it shows when we have people like this reaching out to me, it shows that people are starting to take this as a legitimate resource for distribution and an alternative to the mainstream, which I appreciate. So thank you, guys.
Oh, thanks both of you.
I have a question, if you guys don't mind. Since we're all artists here on this call, talk about, I guess, some of the creative hurdles that you had to overcome in creating, the app and the site and really bringing this to fruition. Do you find it? Well, I guess without putting words into it, just talk about, I guess, the creative process and how you went through creating this and what you overcame it when you did it.
Mm-hmm. Drew, you want to take this one?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like a heavy question, because which I'm sure Damon is also pretty much doing almost all this himself, right? Is that right, Damon?
The only thing I'm not doing is coding. That's
Yeah.
it.
So I mean, I have to do like all the promotion, all the design. I have to cut all my videos for YouTube, which I'm releasing weekly now. And they're pretty intense. They're green screen and they're fairly professionally produced. I know After Effects and Premiere and I know how to design really well. But the creative process behind doing it was a lot of hurdles in the beginning. And I sympathize with Damon because all I really had to do was like really kind of like hack a lot of the Shopify platform, which is an out of the box platform, right? I did have to hack a lot and I had to change a lot of the code, but I mean, it's not like building something from the bottom up, which is a lot more complicated, right? So I needed this to be in place where I thought it was going to be acceptable to work for what I wanted it to be. And Shopify as a platform wasn't that. So I had to really, spin some levers and do some tweaks so it would actually work for me, right? And I'm curious to hear about Damon's process with this because I mean that is just a significantly more massive undertaking than what I'm doing, you know. So I'm all ears, man.
No, we're out of time. But
Drew, I mean, I've seen what you've done, and man, you're doing such an amazing job.
Thanks, bro.
The site is fucking awesome. It really is. Your branding is incredible. Your imagery is fucking top notch. So kudos to you, man. I mean, it's great shit. Really, it is. And I mean, I'm seeing it more and more, and I love that. So yeah. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty bitching to like wake up in the morning and open up the Facebook app and just see fucking godless post after godless post, and I'm like, this might freaking work, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, though, I mean, for both of you,
mm-hmm.
when you came up with the idea, the concept, and you guys, you want to do this, and it's, I mean, let's be honest, it's great to help the community and all, but we all want to make money. We all want to, pursue our passions and all that too. But was there that point for either of you that you went, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, or maybe I need some help, or just like, fuck it, I don't care, let's just throw it out there and see what happens?
I'm not even 2 months in yet, Armand, but you're always going to second guess yourself out of the gate, especially when I'm spending like a shitload of money on stock video for my dopey godless weekly videos, right? You know what I mean? It's like I'm only making 10% of all the authors, which for me is taking a lot from them. But I'm funneling everything back into the company, which I'm sure Damon can completely sympathize with because I'm sure he understands that. If you're passionate about it and you want to move forward, you can't really let things like that get in your way. You just had to push and push and push and push through. And since he's almost on 2 years now, I'd also be curious to hear about the kind of ups and downs, because I know there's going to be ups and downs. Not every day is going to be freaking me releasing a Simon McCarty book, or Armand Rosamilia reaching out to me and saying he wants to be on the site.
Yeah. So just to go back to the original question, so the creative process was, I mean, it was over a long period of time. So it wasn't one big intense burst of, I'm doing this and like it was, 2 weeks of just insanity. It was over a period of at least a good couple of years that I was just paying attention, had my ear to the ground, was sort of getting the ideas and the foundation of everything sort of planted in my head for what I had to do. And it really was a result of hearing these things that I came up with the idea at all. So it wasn't like I was out there specifically saying, hey, I want to do something and having no idea. It was, hey, I have to do something because of all these things. So, that was a big part of it. And the more I heard, the more I wrote things down and sort of looked into all of the different scenarios that I was hearing about and understanding and facing myself. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew until I had this, monstrous outline in front of me. And after I had that, I was like, oh shit, where do I start? So, from that point, it's like, all right, what's important? What's going to make a difference? What's going to matter to people? And, trying to figure that out, it's really a chicken and egg situation at that particular stage, because it's like, all right, well, if I do this, I need this. If I do this, I need that. And if I, all these things have to be lined up a certain way. But there came a point for me where I was just like, fuck it. And I just threw, I threw it at the wall to see what would stick, just to get going. And I learned very quickly. The first version of the app was not very well accepted, and I get it. I was trying to put together things in an older style that, a lot of us older guys were used to, like even going back to the AOL days, I was looking at things from as far back as that, going, how can I sort of repurpose some of that stuff back then that people loved? What could I take from modern stuff? So I was looking at all these different things and just trying to figure out what the features were going to be. And, it's sometimes you just don't have answers until you're in it, Sometimes that's all you can do. But the important part is being in it, because then you can get those answers. And then you can sort of adjust and put things on the right path. That's really the thing. And like Drew said, it's persistence. Persistence is the vast majority of the whole thing. So making sure that you're going and going and going and maintain that momentum is really critical. But yeah, I mean that's been the whole thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, at launch, it was like I launched on March 15th, and at midnight, and I stayed awake because I knew there was probably going to be some hiccups at launch.
Right.
And man, right out of the gate, people who had waited up to get Simon McCarty's follow-ups to Mother Maggot, which were Gob and Knob and Moonface, immediately reached out to me and said, I can't open these fucking ebooks. And I'm like, oh man. Yeah. And it's just like, but I stayed awake all night. I pushed forward, like you said, Damon, you can't be deterred by these little things. You have to really think on your feet and problem solve in real time and just push through. Or you're never going to realize this kind of dream or vision that you had, right? Because if you're knocked down by something little like that, then maybe someone else should have done it, right?
100%.
And I'm not willing to accept that, and I'm sure you're not either,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys are. I mean, just from listening to the stories, it's incredible because you're so much the spirit of the indie, So Armand and I, our show, we talk about indie authors and the writing process and stuff. But it's the same themes that you guys are going through, as entrepreneurs, as creators. It's the perseverance. It's the just move forward and, just start and you'll figure it out as you get there. I mean, we talk about that a lot with some of the new authors that listen to our program, because they'll say, well, I'm stuck and I don't know where to go, or I keep, editing my words and it's never, I can't get it to be perfect. And our message is always just keep going, you'll figure it out, just move forward, finish that first draft, so I just think it's so rock and roll and metal, how you guys are getting this stuff done and, just taking a step outside, you almost like reframed something that's existing out there and said, how do I go, one step further and do it? And you're doing it from an indie perspective, for the love of the art, for the love of the artist, as opposed to, I just want to make some big Amazon company. Hopefully it will get there for you guys. And you'll remember us, that we talked to you early on in the state.
Right. Chuck, remember when you took 2 weeks to get back to me on that agreement? I'm never going to forget that, man.
I know. As well you shouldn't.
I think that's just it, Chuck. And, I don't know where Damon comes from, but I don't want to be in Amazon, right? You know what? I mean, what I'm doing, and I think what he's doing too, is about indie horror, targeted audience, and authors and creators first and foremost. And I think publishers live on that level as well, too, right? I mean, they are just like creators. People think that, indie publishers live this fucking life of luxury and shit, and that's just not true at all, man. They are just in it just as much as the authors, and they have all the same problems with Amazon and Smashwords and all these other distribution platforms that a self-published author would. So, I mean, it's like it's a way to cater to them and help them. I mean, I started this thing when I launched the site. The site was launched on this kind of this idea that I had to release these novelettes for 25 cents a piece. And they're called Fucking Scumbags Burn in Hell. So I released the first one on launch day, right? And then I wrote the second one and the third one before launch. And then I got to the point where the site was consuming so much of my time that I'm like, man, I got to dump this off on other people. And so I put out an open submission and said to a bunch of indie authors, I'm like, would you be interested in doing one of these stories, playing in my universe and writing a 15K to 20K novelette series and build it up into an anthology at the end of the year? That's a big ask for someone to sell something for 50 cents, even if they're getting, 100%. And I just read the first two stories. The first one's by Lucy Leitner, who loves you, Damon. Just loves you.
Lucy's awesome.
She's awesome. And the other one I got was from Lucas Milleron. And man,
Lucas is a big listener here. We've hung out with Lucas. Lucas is awesome.
They both knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's so awesome to read something that's written in a universe that you created with the purpose of actually extending and having other authors participate and help you evolve. But what these two have brought to it already, and these are only the first two stories outside of mine, is just stunning. That they it's such a compliment to me that they would want to do this and that they want to participate in it. And Lucy wants to do a spin-off series on it now, and it's just. This is why Godless was created. It was to really bring the community together. Enough with this publishers, being bitches to each other and other authors having these beefs with each other. Dude, that's done. No one needs that anymore, man. We need to unite as a community, because united as one, and indie horror in general, united as one, as creators, we're going to have a much more powerful voice than a bunch of people banging their chests and talking about themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want Chuck to apologize to me, and then this beef will be over.
I'm completely sorry.
All right.
No, but Drew, you're absolutely right, and I say the same thing myself all the time. If each and every one of us took 5 minutes out of our day to support someone, even if whether it was in a unified way or not, but working together. And helping each other, promoting one another. That's how it works, If you're not trying to spend, $50,000 a month on promotion and all that kind of stuff, then it's got to happen somehow. So, a lot of people just don't like it because, like you said, it doesn't revolve around them. But the fact of the matter is that if you're in line and you're going to be one of those people that's going to get out there, and everybody cycles through. So let's say you have 1,000 people that you need to promote, right? And you're in that line. And 1,000 people are going to promote you. So that's a powerful thing. So yeah, everybody comes up together, and when you're working together, when you're supporting each other, it's hard to knock other people down that are part of that. It's really hard to do.
Well, the kind of old way of doing things, like you said, is just about self-promotion. And of course, I get that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being an indie author and having to be out there on my own, pushing my own stuff, right? It's like, it's really hard. And that's why I think that what you and I are both doing can really help these people. And on that note, I sent you an email back, and I wanted to run this idea by you again now that I've got you face to face.
Okay.
I think that it would be a really good combination of both our brands.
Mm-hmm.
If we did something where we did a call out to a bunch of indie filmmakers on Slasher, and we had them send us their trailers, and then we would make horror authors react to horror. So it would be reaction videos where different horror authors would react to these different trailers that you have kind of curated and sent over to us. And then we throw them on the Godless YouTube channel. I think that would be a great weekly kind of new format for us.
Now that I actually have the ability to do something like that, fucking A. I'm all for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, man. I just think it's a great way to kind of combine our two brands.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've been using Slasher a lot more lately, I noticed there's just a ton of indie filmmakers out there who are kind of getting buried. And I think that having authors who have like a legitimate voice and stance in the community reacting to and checking out their work would be a really cool way to bring our brands together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Cool. Yeah. we could obviously take it offline. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, Damon.
No, it's fine.
I just think it'd be such a unique thing, and it would be a great way to combine like our two brands into one.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's an obvious. I mean, when me and Chuck were talking about, we always try to pair a couple of people on here for these roundtables that we think would work together. I mean, you two were it was just obvious because of what you guys are doing in the horror community. And, whether it's the film or whether it's the writing, I mean, it's just that one big community. And that's what I love about it, because you might not like everything, but there's enough on both of your sites to attract so many different people. And I think that's the cool part for me, because at first I'm an old man, so I'm like, I'm not getting on another app. I'm not getting on another website. I'm not doing any of this. But there's people that me and Chuck both trust. Frank Edler, J.C. Walsh. I mean, both of those guys, Jay Wilburn, all of those guys were like, check this site out kind of thing. And once I started really looking at it, and as a group, we all kind of privately talked, because not like there's a ton of apps. I mean, there should have been Godless a long time ago. There should have been Slasher a long time ago for us, and there wasn't. But I think, as you guys both know, people have tried it in the past with no success to it, because they wanted to be the next Amazon. They wanted to be the horror Amazon, and it just doesn't work.
No.
So a lot of people at first, I'm sure, were like, wow, here we go. This is just a fly-by-night. We're not going to have this app after another month, and we're going to move on to the next thing. And that was kind of my attitude. But once I saw how involved you guys were, whether it's Drew with your videos, or it's like Damon, I jump on the site and like 3 people immediately send me a message, hey, check out my website, check out this or that. And then I'm seeing Damon's like squash everybody who's doing it in a nice way and saying, hey, don't start, sending 1,000 messages, because at first I was like, great, here we go. It's another app where I'm going to get 5,000 messages. Like Instagram, I get 1 million messages to, join their, fan only crap or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially from Chuck. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm like, it's cool because you guys are both in the community. You guys are not letting that crap happen, and everything's been positive. I mean, I love that. I'll just sit and I'll just on my phone. I'm just scrolling through Slasher, and I don't even watch horror movies. And I'm like, oh, that looks cool. That looks cool. And I could sit there for like an hour because there's so many people on there, and like. I'm sitting there watching, I'm watching Drew's videos, but I realize I got to watch her after I've had a couple of cups of coffee, because you're like, I can't take Drew at 8 a.m. in my face like that. You know, I gotta be wide awake, or he scares the shit out of me. But
dude, wait till you see tomorrow's, man. It is just, it's like a fucking onslaught. It's so surprising that I don't do blow anymore, man, because I know I come up as a complete freaking maniac. But Armand, to your point, it's like when I decided to build Godless. Okay, I've owned Godless.com for over 20 years, and I really haven't done shit with it. And it's like such a great domain to own that I've never let it lapse through like all my ups and downs and being homeless and stuff. I've made sure I've always kept that, right? And so there came this time when I had this idea to do this thing for, I feel that I'm a member of the indie horror family. And so I wanted to build a home for the indie horror family because it's my family, right? And so I think that comes from a place within my heart that's like, it's real. And people know that shit's real. I'm not some dude walking in off the street into the horror community who no one's ever heard of. I mean, I'm not a big, huge author, but I mean, it's like people know who I am, so they know that I'm not here to fuck around with them. You know, I didn't walk in with some suit, and I'm not trying to like make PG-13 horror or like rip anyone off. It's 100% about that. This is in my heart. You guys are my family. I want to build you a home.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys keep saying I keep hearing the word community, and honestly, until Armand and JC and Jay and Frank brought this stuff to my attention, because I'm not on social media. Armand, everybody always makes fun of me because I am like the quintessential, like middle-aged old guy who, I'm just like, I can't deal with all the messages and the negativity and all that stuff. But you guys, when it was brought to my attention, what you guys were doing, and I saw the community, and I saw like the groundswell in my community, my friends, my co-authors who were totally into what you guys were doing. I couldn't help but be caught up. And, honestly, and I've been saying this privately, but I've been thinking of leaving the horror community just because of the negativity, because everybody is, eating their own and really attacking each other. And it's just like, what happened? Like, when I first got into it, everybody was helping each other out and looking out for each other. And all of a sudden it turned into all these factions and people going at it. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to write Westerns now. I'm done writing horror because nobody's fighting in the Western genre, but the horror genre, everybody's tearing each other apart. But now after, what you guys have put together, I want to stay a part of the community. I want to keep doing it and be a part of it because, you're really bringing that spirit back. The thing that really got us all involved in horror way back when, right? It was that whole feeling.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Damon, but that's kind of like everything that should inspire us, right? All the negativity on social media and all the, like you said, this like dog eat dog shit going on in the horror community just doesn't make sense. It's like, hey man, we're all in this together. I don't care what publisher you're with, man. These aren't gangs. Let's just be real. Let's be a family, man. Let's all, kumbaya together on this, because that's what's important, right? That's what's important, is getting the message out and getting these voices out and allowing people to create where they don't feel like they're walking into a trap or walking into, negative attention. There's a lot of people right now still doing it, Chuck, man. They're going on like Goodreads and all this shit, and they're just, shitting on all the other indie authors that they're jealous of. And it's just it's really crummy, man.
Well, that's why I'm going to stick with you guys to stay, I'm going to partition myself so that I don't have to deal with it.
It bums me out.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's definitely difficult. Sort of built into the DNA of Slasher is just to be cool to one another. I'm trying to keep it so that, all of the stressors that you'll find everywhere else are as eliminated as possible. you know? So by getting rid of a lot of that kind of stuff and just keeping what we really care about, I think that's what's important. All these other places, they have all these ridiculous rules in place that really just stifle everything, but they don't stifle the things that they should be. You know, so when there's all that kind of stuff and people are just trashing one another and trolling, and it's just a big flaming pile of shit. It's Chuck. It's tedious to be there, man. I get it. I haven't used Facebook in a long time for any kind of enjoyment whatsoever. You know, I keep it just to stay in touch with some people on the Messenger and stuff. I don't go there browsing posts and shit like that like I used to. I don't participate in the groups. You know, it's messy. It's sloppy. And you know, I don't know what the hell happened. I really don't. It's just people aren't in certain situations. It seems like people aren't acting the way that they would if they were talking to somebody face to face. You know,
oh, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I had an issue with somebody, I'd rather just have a conversation with them face to face and get it over with. You know, and just iron it out. There's no need to just be aggressive and to fight one another. There's just not. There's nothing that's beneficial that's going to come out of it. So why even waste the time? You know, that kind of stuff, I just shut right down when it comes to my own personal viewing and stuff like that. If I see that, I'm done. I don't care about being in that place anymore. So I get it.
It's just like so negative whenever like an author comes to me and expresses their beef with another author. I'm like, first of all, I'm not your fucking dad. It's like go iron this out yourself, man. And what right do you have to you know, voice your opinion on something that you think is shitty because you don't like it? You know, it's so transparent too, and it's so based on jealousy and anger that didn't used to be in the horror community at all, man. You know?
I mean, the one thing I will say is I do like to see people's opinions, and thankfully, most people I've seen voicing those opinions on Slasher have been really cool about it. They're respectful of other people's opinions. And if they don't like something, usually there'll be a good explanation as to what they didn't like, why they didn't like it.
Right.
Not that this fucking thing sucks, and that's it. It's usually like, you know, I didn't really like this, and here's what I didn't like. And it's cool because then you get at least an understanding of what you're going to get into if you want to check it out yourself.
Sure.
So it's not just people trashing shit across the board. And that's the one thing I do like. I do appreciate that kind of thing. Because then if it's like a movie I really, really wanted to see or something like that, I'll go in with an expectation of, okay, this person who I trust their opinion, they like the same stuff I do. They didn't like this, and here's why. But I'm still going to watch it anyway, going in understanding I might not like the same things. But you know what? I'm going to try it, see what I think. That's a reasonable way to go about it, in my opinion. You know, because look, at the end of the day, creative work is 100% subjective. Okay, so anybody that thinks it is the best, it's the worst, or anything in between is simply wrong, because they cannot speak for everyone. Everyone is going to have their own opinion of it in one way or another. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe there's some big glaring things that everyone will share an opinion on, but at the end of the day, creative work is all subjective.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that love it, people that hate it. That's it.
And I think that's what everything you're saying is very important, because you're right. You should be able to agree with someone on that you respect their opinion. If they say something's like, warning, dude, you might not want to check this out. Like, warning, Mortal Kombat isn't good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or I mean, I have a certain opinion on Terrifier that I don't share very regularly, knowing how loved it is in the community, you know. But I do have an opinion. I do keep it to myself mostly. I was originally going to do this like horror on horror reaction video with the Terrifier 2 trailer, but I'm like, man, that's me being shitty to the indie horror community, and I don't want to do that, you know. And like all you guys are saying, it's subjective, right? It's nothing more than opinion. And when it gets out of control is when someone is just freaking bloodthirsty about it, saying how shitty something is. And that's when it crosses the line into bad taste.
I think we used to have. I mean, growing up, you had your friends, that you would say, "Oh, don't watch this movie. This movie is fucking awful or awesome or whatever." I mean, we still do that. Me and Chuck and Frank Edler and Tim Meyer and J.C. Walsh. We're on a message thread, and I mean, literally, someone will bring up a subject, and we will rip on each other, and we will kill that movie or profess our love of it, whatever. But we're doing it privately. We're doing it as friends.
Yeah.
We're not jumping on Slasher and saying, "Oh my God, this book absolutely sucks," or this, music or whatever. And so I think we've gotten away from that, unfortunately. We all had our opinions, but I think Facebook and all these other Instagram and everywhere has given us where we think we're a lot more fucking important than we really are.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with it.
People are growing up in this world where they think that they're omnipotent, right? That they can essentially set the rules and the standards and what people should like overall. But once these people get into the real world, which is probably going to happen real soon, they're going to realize that that was a really shitty way to think and that it's just not going to pay off in the real world because that's not the way the real world works, right? I called out Tommy Clark. I was on his... I was on Horrorcasticon or Necrocasticon.
Necrocasticon. Also here on Project Entertainment Network.
Yep. And I called him out because I saw him at this post and he said like AC/DC was the worst band of all time, and I'm like, you are crazy, dude.
He's a Deep Purple fan. What does he know?
Oh, I know. He's like all about Deep Purple and Ghost, and anything else is garbage.
Deep Purple and Ghost.
He makes fun of me for believing in UFOs and Bigfoot, so I mean. But jumping back into the community aspect. That you guys are really building and strengthening for the horror community. What can the listeners of our show do, in your mind to help you guys gain more traction and more exposure? Like if you had your wish list for people who are listening or watching this, what would you like to see more of throughout the community to help strengthen the brands that you guys are putting together?
Yeah. I'll go first, Damon. If you want to.
Go ahead, please.
I think that because the way that I want Godless to be positioned, that I think it's really important that if you want to be an author, and if you're thinking about writing something, and you're deterred by, oh, I'm never going to get an agent, or I'm never going to get a publisher, or Amazon distribution is this and that, and Barnes and Noble. I want you to write. And I want you to distribute your work, right? The world needs more creatives right now, and people creating worlds and universes different from like what everyone else has already done. So that's going to strengthen my brand. Strengthening my brand is breaking unknown talent, right? That's what's selling the best on my site right now is people that you wouldn't recognize before, like 6 months ago. You had never heard of them. It's because they have managed to do something unique and different in the horror community that kind of goes against the rules of, things that have been in place for a really long time. So what's going to help me strengthen my brand is creative and unknown voices putting pen to paper, because that's going to make the difference. And creators are what are going to run my platform. So.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think it's really important to do that. So I think very similarly to that. I think that people should come to Slasher. People should support or promote their work on it. Because having me being able to create and sustain this platform is what's going to bring more attention to the work that's out there. And that's what's important. It's the work. It's the ability for people to connect. So readers with authors, movie fans with filmmakers, you know, people who are into podcasts with podcasters and YouTubers, um, music fans with musicians, all that kind of stuff. It's important. So as creators say, hey, check out, Godless, or check out Slasher, and, check out my work there. Um, that supports the community. Um, you know, that's what helps, because it not only brings people to what we've got to offer, but it opens up that whole world of possibility for everyone else as well. So that goes back to supporting one another. But it's kind of doing it as in, hey, check out my stuff here. And by doing so, new people come in, they see your stuff, but then they see everything else too, and that builds community. So it may not be a selfless act at first, but ultimately it helps everybody. And really just building upon that, I think is really critical. We see, and I'm sure, Drew, you probably feel the same way. We see Amazon just gobbling up all the content, every single thing that they could possibly get their hands on, they take. And they pay out so little to everybody who's on the platform. And I don't know if like the Kindle subscription thing is free or whatever. I mean, if you get free content, and then they pay out a certain amount per copy that's read or whatever.
It's by page. It's by page.
Okay. So yeah. So with movies, it's by minute, right? Or by hour, I should say. They're getting nothing. And content makers are throwing their stuff at Amazon. Why?
It's because there's nothing in place.
Exactly.
There's nothing in place currently to kind of grab the attention of these creators, And I hope I'm doing a good job, because I know you are, Damon. So I mean, you've done a really good job of building your brand and amplifying it so people know exactly what it is, right? Mm-hmm. I've got a little trickier situation, because like we all know, it's like, hey, man, I'm on Amazon, dude. It's like, hey, man, you're getting freaking robbed being on Amazon.
Right.
You know? It's a hard sell. Godless, the name, in the brand is, it's kind of satanic. You know what I mean? It doesn't ring true to the mainstream. And, I want to be an author, and I want to be a huge author, and I want to have a published book, and I want to have a hardcover in my hand. Everyone on here who's an author knows what that feels like, right? There's nothing better than getting a freaking hardcover book of your work in the mail. And I know that's just the greatest thing in the world. We all think back to the end of Back to the Future when, Biff brings over George McFly's, hardcover book. Yeah, put your mind to it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's this feeling of ecstasy, but people have to start thinking a different way, because the publishing industry is evolving, and we have to follow that, and we have to figure ways around what's, this thievery that's going on through places like Amazon. They're stealing from the creators, and essentially they own your material, man.
Right. In my opinion, what's worse is that the creators are effectively willingly put themselves out of business.
Yep.
They're cannibalizing themselves by going to places like this. When you're working with any company, I don't care who it is, whether it's Amazon or somebody else, when you're working with a company that is commoditizing what you do and not taking you at face value as an individual creator, that's a problem for you and for everyone else who's trying to create. Because what that's doing is it's setting a precedence, just like Pandora did. Okay, just like Spotify is doing with the music industry, further destroying it. Okay, yeah. Napster didn't wreck the music industry. Napster was a cautionary tale of what was to come.
Sure
it was Pandora. It was Pandora giving away music for free. Okay, if you're a musician, okay, and somebody's giving away your work for free, what does that say to you that your value is at that point of the value of your work? Zero.
Goose egg.
And what you're doing is you're feeding a public view of what your work should be worth. Zero, right? So if you're feeding that monster, what have you got left to turn to? You did that at that point, you know? So it's important to feed places that give a shit about your work. You know, I want to see people succeed. I want to see people do well. You know, I want my platform, I want your platform, Drew, to be the place that jumpstarts massive careers for other people, you know? You know, yeah. I mean, I've said it a million times, you know, the next big people, the next Stephen King, the next Anne Rice, you know, the next, Wes Craven, they're among us right now working. But if people don't see their work, if people don't buy their work, why would they keep going if they can't afford to do that, or if it's not bringing them any joy? Yeah. You know, those are the two important factors that I can see that would cause somebody to stop working. Either they just don't like doing it anymore, or they can't afford to. And that's unfortunate. But we can do something about that instead of accepting, you know, several cents an hour for your movie, or several cents per page, or fractions of a cent per page of your book. I think a lot of the creative people are under this impression that having a big name rip you off is going to help. But that's kind of the same thing as somebody saying, oh, you're a graphic designer? Well, would you like to work for exposure? Of course you fucking wouldn't. I mean, you want to work for money because that's what puts food on the table.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what keeps you going. That's your job. You know, that's what you do. I don't go into, the grocery store and say, hey, I'm going to take a picture of myself eating this sandwich. I can give you guys exposure. No, that's the most asinine thing I've ever fucking heard.
It's ridiculous. And sadly enough, Damon, my other business is branded entertainment. So I totally know where you're coming from. So like what we do is we put products into freaking movies and TV shows, right? Yeah. So it's like I totally get that. It's like that's all great and fun and games when it's in the movie and a big studio's doing it and a big brand is doing it. Yep. But in the real world, that ain't the way exchanging currency works.
No, I mean, especially when people put so much weight on Amazon, they're not. All they're doing is hosting your work. They're not promoting it. They're not doing anything with it except using it to further their services and to make money off of it. The amount they're paying in return is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
And I think creators have to stop enabling big companies from, taking your work and making it have zero value to the public. That has to stop. It absolutely has to stop.
I always feel bad, kind of like trying to explain to authors that, like, I can't put your work on Godless if it's in KDP Select, right? Mm-hmm. Because I would never want them to make a decision to jump off of KDP Select and not get those page view royalties that a lot of people do count on.
Sure.
And make a mistake and come to my platform and just fall flat, Mm-hmm. That would be devastating to me.
Right.
So what I tell people is, you got to be sure this is what you want, because this is a whole different ball game. I mean, I am going to promote the hell out of you, and I am going to try and get your voice out there. But, there are no guarantees, and just being on Godless isn't going to make you Stephen King, Yep.
Yeah, no, it's really important. And yeah, I mean, look, if somebody's got the marketing skill or know-how to get, thousands of hours of views of their movies or pages or what have you, that's great. But let's face it, the vast majority of creators just don't have that skill set or the time to utilize it.
Yep.
I sure as hell don't, So, and that's not to say that everybody's going to be the same as me, but you're going to spend your time creating. That's what you're good at. That's what you should focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole other end of it that a lot of people they never get into, and nobody likes getting into the business end of anything. Everybody wants to just create and do what they do best, and that's what they should be able to do. And hopefully that's where people like you and I come into play, Drew, because we want to help people get out there and make it easier for them, make it more worth their while to continue doing what they love to do, so that way we can enjoy it as a result of that work.
Well, I know firsthand, Damon, that you are supportive of the community, because the day I did join Slasher, you had sent me a message, which I'm sure is a pretty standard message, and I responded and said, "Hey, man, I just launched this thing. I think that there's a lot of stuff that we could work together on," and you hit me back immediately. So I do know that you are a true person, and you are true to the horror community, and you are looking out for it. So that meant a lot to me, dude, and I really appreciated it.
Oh, thank you. Look, I love understanding what people need, so that way we can work together like you're talking about here. I think it's really important, because if I understand, what do authors need? What do filmmakers need? What do haunters need? What do YouTubers need? If I understand that, then I can do something about it, and that's why I'm always asking people, hey, what do you need? Like, what are you into? And I'll say, like, hey, I'm looking for these groups of people who do this to talk with and have some conversations with. So that way I can do that. I can get that information and get that understanding and knowledge, so I could be able to go out there and make things happen for them and provide that level of support for them.
I think the community overall really, really, really appreciates it, and they appreciate that you are not just some kind of behind the scenes guy who isn't in the community or is in the community. I think that means a lot to us, that you started the Slasher platform from the ground up, and it does more than just cater to creatives. You're on the other end of it, and you are responsive as you possibly can be to the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you guys are both of your sites are giving an alternative to the Amazons and all that. And you're bringing, the great part is, if you're a horror fan, you're gonna go to Slash, you're gonna go to Godless. You're not Amazon or a lot of the other sites that I've worked with over the years that are, okay, you're an author, so we're going to throw you in with the romance authors and the fantasy authors and all these other authors, and then you're going to hope those people find you. If I put something on Godless, I might not be as extreme as a lot of those books, but it's a horror book, and people respond, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback so far on the couple of books that I put up there. Same with Slasher. When I throw up a video or I throw something up there, I'm getting people that are commenting and stuff, because it's a built-in audience as a creative person, and I think that's what's really cool about it. And I think it's only going to keep building for both of you over time, because you're bringing in the right people. You're bringing in the fans of horror, I think, which is really, really good.
Well, I think that on my end, and it's people say that this is that both Damon and I would be targeting a very niche audience, but I don't think that's the truth at all, because I think that horror is such a big thing, and there is mainstream qualities to horror, but it's a lot more than that. What I'm finding right now about the stuff that's working best on Godless is short fiction that's microtransaction priced and get it immediately. That's what's working, man. And I know a lot of people just need that hardcover in their hands, like I said before, but it's like you got to start thinking about how you're going to make money, man. So knock out a 10,000 word story, throw it on Godless. I'll design the cover for you, man. Let's make you some money. Sell that thing for 50 cents. That's less. That's like that's 2.5 lives on Candy Crush, man. For like an hour of entertainment. It's nuts.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Well, it was awesome having you guys on. We could probably do this all night, but
please.
But really, seriously, thanks for coming on. Good luck with everything. Obviously, me and Chuck love the site, and we know a lot of people that are listening and watching this tonight are also a lot of I'd say a lot of our audience are horror authors, and a lot of them are authors that are just starting out or haven't pulled the trigger yet on that first book, or haven't gotten out there into the community and talked to people because they think they have nothing to offer. And I tell people that all the time. I mean, here's the thing. You're a horror author. Write something, put it on Godless, and then get on Slasher and promote, not your book, promote yourself. Introduce yourself to the community now as you're doing this. And again, we're all going to build this up together. And I think that's pretty cool. When you guys go Wall Street with the sites, though, remember me and Chuck, though, we get some shares of this stuff. So
I'll never forget you guys, man. I appreciate.
Well, I mean, Chuck couldn't get back to you. I mean, I wouldn't.
Less Chuck, more Armand. But yeah, man. You guys are nailing it on the head. Everything we've talked about makes me so happy, and it just like reaffirms everything that I wanted to do, and I love that. And like you said, Armand, if you call yourself a writer and you don't spend any time writing, you're not a writer, man. You need to shit. You need to write to be a writer, and don't be afraid. There are obviously platforms in place now that will distribute your work and help you out and get other authors to help you and give you tips and pointers and tell you what you're doing right and wrong and really help guide you. And that's what the horror community used to be, and that's what it's becoming again.
Yeah.
And I think that's rad.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right, guys, it was cool talking to you, and we'll definitely have to do this again, and we'll have to keep in touch.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and don't forget, speaking of horror, reapersbrew.com, a horror-themed coffee company. Wow. And it's also owned by a veteran, so thank you for your service. 2 great flavors, Murder Mud, which is the regular octane level, and then Electric Chair, which is high octane. And don't forget to check out their serial killer mugs. They've got other funny mugs. Plus, I forgot to mention before, you can buy single bags. You could buy pods for your Keurig, or you could get a subscription service so you don't even have to roll out of bed. The bags just show up in your mailbox. Check them out. Use the code MANDO, that's MANDO, at checkout and receive 10% off your first order. Plus, get something free. Could be a COVID mask, could be bookmarks, could be anything. So you don't know until you go and buy some and drink it. The words will fly onto the page. So thank you very much, reapersbrew.com. Thank you very much to Slasher App and Damon, and thank you very much to Drew and the Godless.com. Great sites, and this was a lot of fun. You're right, Armand. I could do this all day and all night. So.
And you didn't even want to do this. You were like so against having these guys on.
No. I wanted to do it naked. And
that's right. You wanted to do it naked. I forgot. Yeah.
Chuck, you're killing me, dude. Chuck, lose my number and my email.
All right, guys. We'll talk to everybody later.
Later, guys.